And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Radio Show.
And thanks, Paul. Paul Topman, ladies and gentlemen.
How do you do, everybody? It's good to be back playing the old organ again here at the Bob and Ray Show.
Good to see you again, and Mary Magoon over there. And
hello.
Wally Ballou.
Hi.
And all the rest of the Bob and Ray cast. We're mighty happy to say that also several new sponsors have signed aboard for this new series. Sponsors whose products and services you'll be hearing a lot about.
In addition, of course, to our old faithful subscribers, Ein Binder, the fly paper that you've grown to trust over the course of 3 generations. And the Monongahela Metal Foundry, makers of steel ingots for home and office.
Plus, we welcome Height Watchers International, offering 6 ample servings of low vitamins and nutrients in artificial colorings.
And the McGonigal Soap Company. Good enough for your grandmother, it should be good enough for you.
The Crutchford Braid and Tassel Company, the company that dares to stand behind its fringe for 2 full years.
And we'll be welcoming the Upper Mohawk Valley Manufacturing Company, a leader in products sold by direct mail.
We'll hear all about these fine sponsors and much, much more as we proceed with the all-new Bob and Ray radio series. Well, since last we said goodbye to you viewers, not very much has changed on the entertainment scene except for one big development.
Oh, that's right. TV discovered the courtroom.
Right.
And now we're deluged with programs featuring real litigants and actors as lawyers, real lawyers questioning witnesses who are actors.
And so we, great humanitarians that we are, said this type of fine entertainment should be brought to our Bob and Ray listeners. So we bring you the first session of Civil Court, the live feature where real people bring real damage suits before a real judge. Today's case involves aspiring author F. Scott Bostwick and his landlady Muriel Dowdy, whom he claims willfully destroyed one of his manuscripts. Now I see that Judge Morton Krexler has taken his place on the bench, so let's move inside the courtroom for today's case.
All right, you can be seated. I've read your claim, Mr. Bostwick, and I understand that you're accusing your landlady here of destroying the only copy of a manuscript for your unpublished book. Now, in compensation, you're seeking damages of $70. Is that correct?
No, there's one thing wrong in there, Your Excellency. I'm seeking damages of $70 million. I guess I left out 6 zeros when I typed up my complaint.
Well, that's absurd. I haven't got $70 million to give this man.
Well, you better get your hands on it, you old biddy. I'm playing hardball now.
Just a minute. Let's have order here. Mr. Bostwick, what leads you to believe that the manuscript you say your landlady destroyed was worth $70 million?
Well, for one thing, it was the great American novel of this century.
Oh, bourgeois.
I called it Rex, the story of a boy and his dog.
And you'd been assured of $70 million in royalties from its publication, had you?
Well, assured is kind of a strong word, Your Eminence, but one publisher said he liked my neat typing, and he sort of encouraged me to submit a few more chapters, so naturally that led me to start figuring what the movie rights might sell for, and I calculate $70 million easy.
Your Honor, this man is a certified loony. You appear smart enough to figure that out.
Don't use flattery on him, Muriel. This is just like the time you tried to sell me your husband's old clothes and told me I looked good in them.
Oh, hold on now, please, both of you. Mrs. Dowdy, is the complaint against you correct when it states that you destroyed Mr. Bostwick's manuscript deliberately?
Of course it's correct. You don't crumple 400 sheets of paper up into little balls by accident.
I can explain what happened very easily, Judge. You see, this little weasel was too cheap to buy typing paper for his book. He just scribbled it on old paper sacks and things like that.
It was still priceless prose, Your Worship, but she just crumpled it page by page, even the part about Rex being sick with worms when he was a puppy.
Well, that Rex was the boy in your book.
No, Rex was the dog. The boy's name was Rover.
See, Your Honor, he names the dog Rex and the boy Rover. Now, I ask you, does that sound like the great American novel?
Don't start with your literary critique again, Muriel. You wouldn't know a good book if I hit you over the head with one. Besides, you had no right to crumple my manuscript.
Well, it wasn't the way it seemed, F. Scott. I was packing Christmas gifts to mail to the grandchildren, and little Stanley's toy truck rattled around in the box, so I just crumpled up your paper to pack around the toy and cushion it.
You mean you did it to make a little kid happy at Christmas and not because you thought my book was terrible?
If you'll let me ask the questions here, after all, I'm the judge.
Yeah, but you're just making things complicated. Besides, if she put my crumpled manuscript in a package, we might be able to get it back.
Yes, I'm sure Stanley only wants the toy truck. He wouldn't give 2 hoops for your book.
Well, I'd still have the expense of getting it retyped. Publishers don't like to read manuscripts that need to be uncrumpled.
I believe a compromise on the damages may be in order here. You were asking for $70 million, Mr. Bostwick.
That's right.
But if your book only needs to be retyped, would you settle for less?
Oh, sure, in that case. I mistakenly thought it was lost forever.
Well, then the court denies the claim for $70 million in punitive damages. Instead, I'm awarding the plaintiff $30 million to have his book retyped. Case dismissed.
I think I can live with that.
Now, hold on. A typist doesn't charge that kind of money. Come back here, Your Honor. Your Honor. Yoo-hoo!
And so another dispute is brought to a satisfactory conclusion by Judge Morton Krexler. Join us again soon when the American system of justice will work its miracles in another case presented in civil court. Oh, boy, you know what that is, the Bob and Ray Employment Service of the Air music. Here to help you, the ordinary employee, with your employment problems, and we hope we can do that. It's our hope we can dip into the extensive Bob and Ray job files and come up with a better tomorrow for you people seated on the hardwood bench here. Would the first job seeker please step up?
Hello, Elliott.
You're our guest for this evening, sir. Could I have your name and occupation?
I'm Scarf Johnson, barnstormer and crop duster. Have you got a job for me?
Oh, not so fast, Johnson. Do you own your own plane?
Yes, I own a Spad. What do you have in mind?
Well, if my memory serves me correctly, there's a kennel 3 miles north of Jamestown, New York, and the owner of the kennel, Mr. Ogden, would like the whole place dusted with flea powder.
I've mass powdered before, Elliott. Now, when does he want the job done?
Well, it's not that easy, Johnson. Mr. Ogden would like to interview you first to see if you're the right man for the job.
Well, I've had vast spraying experience.
No, you still have to see Mr. Ogden before the job is secured. And I'd like to give you a few interview tips.
Shoot, Elliott.
While you're in his office, don't lean on his desk while you're talking to him. They hate that.
Who?
Any prospective employer.
All right, I'll write that down in my logbook here. And remember it when I see Ogden.
And call him Mr. Ogden, because familiarity breeds contempt. You're not going there to be a pal. You're after a job. So be as friendly as you can, but at the same time, be, well, as remote as possible. Think you can do that, Johnson?
Oh, I think I can handle it, Elliott. I'll talk to him from behind the closed door of his office.
That might not be a bad idea, but I think you should enter Mr. Ogden's office.
All right, now go in and turn my back to him. We'll chat that way.
Good. Now, you'll have to get longer puttees. The ones you're wearing go only halfway up your legs. Prospective employers are always concerned about neatness,
Well, these are the only puttees I own. And if I roll them all the way up to my knees, there'll be spaces showing. And I have some ball players' knee-length stockings I could wear, though.
Don't you have boots, Johnson?
I did have, but my Batman, Corporal Rollins, stole them several years ago.
Maybe you'd better wear Oxfords and socks with clocks on them. That'll look neat.
Will do, Elliott.
How did your swagger stick get bent, Johnson? Mr. Ogden will take notice of that right away.
It got bent from many years of slapping it against my thigh. You can see where the right thigh here is slightly worn away.
I hope Mr. Ogden won't notice that, Johnson. We can do something about it. When you enter Mr. Ogden's office, kind of walk sideways, you know what I mean?
You mean, sidle in, left side featured? That it, Elliott?
That's it. Feature your left side. Well, that's about all, Johnson. After you sign several employment papers here, you can be on your way to Jamestown.
And how much am I going to get for this job, Elliott?
Well, it's piecework. We're going to charge by the dog. So if you get the job, see that your aim is good, Johnson. And the rest of you folks on the hardwood bench there can go home. Come back again after I've had a chance to study our extensive Bob and Ray employment files. Thank you all. Here's a tip on proper etiquette from the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Chances are you're spending a lot of these weekends as a house guest of friends or relatives who live in the country.
If so, you should realize that it's appropriate to take a small present to your host and hostess.
And let us assure you, no gift is appreciated more than a 100-yard roll of Einbinder flypaper. It comes handsomely packaged in a lovely plastic carton with pictures of daffodils on the outside.
And, of course, on the inside you'll find the old-fashioned high quality that makes Einbinder flypaper so welcome wherever it's given.
For a household present that's impressive, be sure you get genuine Einbinder, the brand you've grown to trust over the course of 3 generations. And welcome now to General Pharmacy, the dramatic story of handsome young druggist Ross Flocknoy and his struggle to save humanity at the prescription counter of a pharmacy still technically owned by his aging father. As our scene opens today, Ross is carefully buttoning his pharmaceutical smock to begin work, when suddenly a stranger he has never seen before approaches the prescription counter.
Good morning. I know you've never seen me before, but I'm sure you recognize me from my pictures. I'm Roderick Ashford, star of stage, screen, and television. My lovely wife, the former Brenda Hume, has recently left me for another man, so now I need this prescription filled.
I'm afraid you'll have to wait a moment. I'm still buttoning my pharmaceutical smock to begin work.
Very well, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you. It's rather urgent.
Hey, Mr. Ashford. Oh, what a break finding you here. Remember me, Eddie Fapp, cub reporter for the old Hollywood Evening Graphic?
No, I don't remember you, but what's more, I have nothing to say to the press about the status of my on-again, off-again marriage to the lovely Brenda Hume.
Okay, I can fill your prescription now, Mr. Ashford.
Just say I'll always remember Brenda as she was when I first picked her out of the back row of a chorus line and made her my wife.
Ah, that's a great quote, Mr. Ashford. You know, getting this scoop could be a big turning point for me at the Evening Graphic. Sure hope so. Trying to support my chronically ill mother on a salary of only $42 a week has been rough.
Well, I'm afraid I have nothing to say that would make a headline, son. Naturally, I miss Brenda desperately, but as the idol of the nation's women, I don't suppose I'll ever be lonely.
The doctors say an operation might help Mom, but they don't promise anything, and on my salary, it's out of the question anyway.
Even so, I'll probably dispose of the big house up in the hills. 18 rooms is too much for a man alone to look after.
If you've lost the prescription, I can call the doctor and get it again. That's one of the humanitarian things I often do.
And, of course, every one of those rooms will forever remain filled with memories of Brenda.
Mom fell on the ice and broke her hip about 5 years ago. That was the start of the whole thing. Being bedridden just seems to leave a person open to all kinds of infection.
I imagine I'll spend more time at the cottage in Palm Springs now. I've neglected my golfing because Brenda never liked the game.
Just lying in bed that long weakens the lungs, and, well, now Mom seems to look a little worse every night when I come home from the office.
I've neglected so many things because Brenda didn't like them. All I cared about was pleasing Brenda.
I think I'd give the operation a try, even if the doctors can't promise anything, but, well, on $42 a week, it's out of the question.
You'd think that would mean something to her, wouldn't you?
Oh, it would mean the world to her, but I just can't swing it.
Yes, I guess that's because the story of my life now, I just can't swing it.
I'm afraid I'll have to fill somebody else's prescription first if you won't give me yours.
It's quite all right. You can take this gentleman ahead of me.
I haven't got a prescription. On $42 a week, I can't afford one.
Strangely enough, I find that understandable. I've never said this publicly, but I was once poor myself. And now that the secret is out, I can't tell you how much better I feel.
And so, handsome young druggist Ross Flocknoy continues aiding those who come to him in search of prompt relief. But what dark clouds may be hovering on the horizon for Ross? Be sure to join us next time when we'll hear lovely Brenda Ashford say,
"But I don't understand. I thought all aspirin was alike."
That's in the next dramatic episode of General Pharmacy.
And now, through the magic of live radio, we again join Folly Gerard in a remote corner of America as he continues to travel down the byways. Today, Farley has parked his deluxe motorhome in Royal Center, Indiana, where he's prepared to bring us another of his homespun reports. So take it away, Farley Gerard.
For many of us mature Americans, the familiar figures of our childhood have all but vanished from the national scene. The early morning footsteps of the milkman are seldom heard in today's suburbs. Gone, too, are the streetcar motorman, the old clothes man, and the neighborhood vendor of fresh produce. But here in Royal Center, Indiana, a man named Merle Boggins is striving to keep one bit of our heritage alive. For Merle Boggins is that once familiar figure who is rarely seen today, the small-town grouch. And Mr. Boggins, I'm sure your type still sends a reminiscent chill of fear through many of us older folks.
Well, thank you for those kind words, but of course, it's the younger folks I'm really anxious to scare. As the town curmudgeon, I play a vital role. Excuse me a moment. Hey, you little punk! Pick up that candy wrapper before I ram it down your throat.
Well, that threat certainly did the trick, Mr. Boggins. The tyke couldn't have been more than 5 years old, but he jumped to obey your command.
Yes, I can see the terror in his eyes. He'll be having nightmares about old Merle Boggins. You can bet your boots on that.
You seem to derive a good deal of satisfaction from playing out your role as the town grump here in Royal Center.
Oh, yes, I feel I'm rendering a service to the parents of this community when I scare the wits out of their kids. We have almost no juvenile delinquency here. As a result excuse me. Hey, you! Don't leave your tricycle on my sidewalk. Haven't you got the sense you were born with? You see that? I love it when they burst into tears and just take off that way.
Yes, I can see your enjoyment. You were saying that your sour disposition has helped rid the town of juvenile delinquency, too?
That's right. You see, young children are naturally afraid of adults, and I'm a large man who makes an imposing figure for them to fear.
Well, that's quite true. You must be well over 6 feet and...
No, actually, I'm 5'8", but I weigh over 300 pounds. The children find that frightening.
As well they might. You feel that screaming at them teaches a respect for elders that keeps the kids out of trouble, is that it?
No, it's not so much a matter of respect. It's more that I terrify them enough to make them stay home when they can't bother anybody.
Well, I did notice that there are very few children on the street here, but I thought maybe they were just in school somewhere.
Oh, no. Most of them are hiding in upstairs closets or attics. However, few who have the money are probably seeing their psychiatrists about now.
And their emotional problems will all result from being frightened by you in their early years. Is that what you believe?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Now, this little town supports 26 psychiatrists now, and they all tell me I've done a great job of getting our young people thoroughly warped. That's what makes them good citizens. Now, years ago... excuse me. Hey, you little brat! Don't pick those flowers, or I'll wring your scrawny neck.
I think he fainted.
Yeah, some of the smaller ones do. Now, as I was saying, every community used to have a town grouch years ago, and believe me, children stayed in line a lot better than they do now, with nothing to scare them but TV and movies.
Yes, your type does present a more clear and present danger.
I was badly frightened by a crazy old man when I was young, and now I'm just doing the same thing for the next generation. That's the American way. But there aren't many of us dedicated grumps left. Oh, hey, you in the stroller! Go home! I don't want to see your ugly little face around here.
And so, once again, the quiet of a small-town afternoon is broken by the rasping, ominous voice of Merle Boggins. There aren't many like him left in America, and for those of us who remember the local curmudgeon of our own childhood, Merle Boggins is like a touch of yesteryear pulling at our heartstrings. We'll remember Merle as we pack up and leave Royal Center to hear the other stories that are waiting to be told down the byways. Until our next stop, this is Farley Gerard saying so long for now. A brief word now for another of our sponsors who've joined us for this series, the Upper Mohawk Valley Manufacturing Company.
Friends, we've warned you in the past that Upper Mohawk refuses to sell any of its products directly to the public at retail. But still, many of you persist in sending cash, checks, and money orders to the company's main office at 538 East Wallingford Street in Herkimer, New York.
We must say again that this is a futile attempt on your part to obtain products bearing the genuine Upper Mohawk label. The company cannot fill retail orders or return unsolicited money. So when you're in the market for any of Upper Mohawk's superior products, please refrain from doing what thousands of others have done.
Do not send your cash, check, or money order to the Upper Mohawk Valley Manufacturing Company, 538 East Wallingford Street, Herkimer, New York.
That address again, 538 East Wallingford Street, Herkimer, New York. Thank you.
Come with us now as we return once more to Gary Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There, in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our story resumes, young Rodney Murchfield is seated behind his large mahogany desk in his large mahogany-paneled office at the Murchfield Lead Company. He glances up as his ne'er-do-well brother Caldwell enters.
Oh, I'm surprised to see you in the office before noon, Caldwell. What's wrong? Did the rest of your golf foursome fail to show up?
Oh, don't be sarcastic, little brother. I think you know why I'm here. I'm the executive vice president of this firm, but I just got word from the bank that my last paycheck bounced. Now, what gives, Rodney?
If you spent more time around here, you wouldn't need to ask, Caldwell. The bottom has dropped out of the lead market. Naturally, that creates a cash flow problem for a company like ours that doesn't produce anything else.
Well, what about our reserves in the warehouse? Can't we borrow against those to tide us over?
No, it seems the bank doesn't want to risk getting stuck with hundreds of tons of lead ingots. Even a flashy advertising campaign won't whip up much consumer demand for a product like that.
Thought I'd say you're really in Dutch, Rodney. I can just picture Mother's reaction when she learns that the family business has gone to the brink of bankruptcy under your leadership.
Greetings, Mother. How nice to see you paying one of those rare visits to your office here in Murchfield Tower.
Cut the small talk, Rodney. Come in and close the door.
I'm afraid I can't close the door, Mother. I sold it to cover this week's petty cash expenses.
I should have known something like this would happen. You're just such a lousy businessman, Rodney.
I don't think that's a fair statement, Mother. I got bids from 3 second-hand door companies before I made the sale, and I can assure you that I held out for top dollar.
I'm not talking about doors.
I got $12 in cash for this one. And Wild Eddie, the king of used door dealers, has taken an option on all the rest of them in the building at the same price.
My word, Rodney, you can't keep a lead company in business by selling its office doors.
Well, we can't seem to sell anything else at the moment, Mother, especially our lead. However, I'm sure the unstable market is only temporary. It's just something caused by the Arabs or the Canadians, a bunch of those other foreigners, but it'll blow over.
Well, until it does, you're going to have to show the same kind of strong corporate leadership that your father always displayed. You must do what's best for all concerned.
I'm not sure what that is, Mother.
It's obvious. Preserve our family fortune by laying off all the lead miners until we can get the price back up.
Well, I don't think the workers would see that as being the best thing for all concerned. In fact, I can just imagine what those husky brutes would do if they ever got wind of your idea.
Hey, Muggsy, give me a hand with this load of ingots, will you? They weigh 600 pounds apiece, and I can't lift them by myself.
I'm sorry, Brutus, but I've hoisted my last ingot for those conniving Murchfields. I hear the old lady's planning to give us all the axe just because the lead market's dropped a little.
Holy catfish, Muggsy. I've been with Murchfield Lead for 49 years. I'm due to get my gold watch in the spring.
Well, you can kiss that goodbye. My little girl can forget about those expensive baton twirling lessons, too. It's a shame. She had real talent. She could have been a contender.
Personally, I don't think we should take this lying down. Lead miners can be mean and unruly when they're stirred up. And I think it's time we stirred them up to teach the Murchfields a lesson they'll never forget.
Can the workers at Murchfield Lead hope to stage an effective strike after they've all been fired? Will Caldwell's standing at the country club suffer when he's forced to spend his days at the unemployment office? And what about Wild Eddie's move to corner the market and used office doors? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear Brutus tell his co-workers,
I'm clocking out early to go beat Rodney Murchfield to a pulp.
That's in the next exciting episode when we resume our story of intrigue on Garish Summit. Well, mention my name in Sheboygan means that's it for this Bob and Ray show, ladies and gentlemen.
Bob, I want to thank you for showing up.
And the same to you. Trust we can count on another visit down these same airwaves together very soon.
This program was developed and produced for the Radio Foundation by our friend and cohort Larry Josephson. Now, he's the one over there with the frown on his face.
Lars Hoel was the associate producer assisting him in all of this, as did Paul Taubman in the music department.
And Al Schaefer, Mr. Dependable, in the sound effects booth.
Technical director was David Glasser.
Our engineers, Howard Schwartz and David Glasser, assisted by Marty Newman and Miles Smith.
Production assistants Bill O'Neill and Charles Whitson.
Major funding for the Bob and Ray Radio Show was provided by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund. And now this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
Additional funding from public radio stations. For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. Again, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. We regret that we cannot send a picture without a stamped self-addressed envelope. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.
Hail, Silver, hooray!
And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Radio Show. Okay, thanks, Paul, and everybody's here and accounted for.
Are they all here? Bob's here, Ray's here, Webley,
I'm here.
Paul Taubman.
Yes, he's there.
Okay.
And Al Schaefer's over there. And I guess the whole crowd is here.
Right.
So why don't we get to our work?
All right.
Friends, have you reached that time of life when you feel useless because your children have all grown up and moved away?
Worse yet, have you gone without children because you live in an apartment building where the landlord won't let you have one?
Or, worst of all, do you have children but still feel bored because they're always the same children day after day?
Well, neighbors, if your answer is yes to any of those heart-rending questions, then you'll want to hear more about our fabulous offer to put a videotaped child in your home today.
Yes, friends, for a price that sounds too ridiculous to be true, you can have the lifelike picture of a little tyke romping in your living room tonight through the magic of VCR.
Just imagine 3 solid hours of all that excitement you've been missing as you watch the little one on the screen break dishes, pound a tin pan with a spoon, and even throw a temper tantrum for your viewing pleasure.
Now, let our Bob and Ray videotape child create its heartwarming racket while you're trying to read the paper in the evening. Or, better yet, program your VCR to wake you at 3 a.m. with the demanding cries of a noisy youngster.
Truly, there are 1,001 ways you can use a Bob and Ray VCR child to upset the orderly routine of your life. But best of all, you need not be bored with the antics of the same bothersome kid night after night.
He speaks true, friends. Thanks to modern electronics, you can exchange your videotape child for another one in our vast library at any time for only a moderate charge.
We have an ample stock of boys and girls of all ages, from howling infancy to those defiant teenage years. So if you like, you can have a different noisy child in your home every day of the week.
However, we don't want you to order a Bob and Ray videotaped youngster on our say-so alone. Instead, let us read to you from some of the unsolicited letters of thanks that have come pouring into our lavish New York post office box.
A woman in Utah writes, I'm in my late 70s and had almost forgotten what it was like to have neighbors call the police about my loud, thoughtless children. Now, thanks to your wonderfully lifelike tape, the fuzz is here at all hours to investigate the ruckus. I haven't felt so popular since my real kids were all sent to prison for their hijinks. I'm ever grateful to you.
And from a man in Michigan comes this testimonial. I originally purchased a Bob and Ray VCR child to ruin my evenings and make my days at the office seem pleasant by comparison. Imagine my surprise when I found that my faithful dog Sport was also fascinated by the youngster on the screen. Sport hurls himself at the TV, snapping and growling happily. It's a treat for him, and I no longer have to pay expensive lawsuit awards to the parents of all those live children that Sport used to chase.
And finally, here's a touching postcard from a woman in Ohio who writes, I was upset at first when I noticed that the videotaped child you sent me needed to have his teeth straightened. I lay awake nights worrying how I could pay for orthodontia. Then I realized that I could simply exchange the tape for another one featuring a child with better teeth. I can never thank you enough for bringing me all the worries of parenthood without saddling me with any of the expense.
Obviously, you're anxious to have us do the same thing for you that we've done for all these grateful people. So why not order your videotaped child today and take advantage of our special bonus offer?
That's right, Pilgrims. He said special bonus offer. If your prepaid order is postmarked before midnight tonight, we'll also send along absolutely free a large package of authentic childhood junk to scatter around your home.
Now, this isn't just the usual assortment of cheap crayons and broken doll heads that you get from most companies making a similar offer. Instead, we'll include such action items as roller skates you can trip over to injure yourself, not to mention a collection of scary bugs that may still be partially alive when they reach you.
Surround yourself with these free premiums while you enjoy viewing the antics of a young child on your TV screen, and you'll immediately sense what parenthood is all about.
So why not act quickly to experience all the excitement of adding a videotaped child to your household? Just send cash, check, or money order to Toddlers on Tape, care of Bob and Ray, New York.
Better make that strictly cash or money order, since checks can lead to a lot of unpleasantness on an item like this. The address again, Toddlers on Tape, care of Bob and Ray, New York. Thank you.
Yes, especially for the cash. Thank you.
And welcome now to General Pharmacy, the dramatic story of handsome young druggist Ross Flecknoy and his struggle to save mankind at the prescription counter of a pharmacy still technically owned by his aging father. As our scene opens today, Ross is busily dusting the bottles in his vitamin display when a distinguished-looking stranger suddenly approaches the prescription counter.
Good morning. To you, I probably seem like nothing more than a distinguished-looking stranger. However, I happen to be the world-famous surgeon, Dr. Knowlton Bradshaw, whose skilled hands have saved the lives of thousands. Currently, I'm suffering from a skin rash that I've been unable to cure with a mustard poultice, so my dermatologist has given me this prescription to be filled.
I'll be right with you, Doctor. I just have to finish cleaning up this vitamin display first. For some reason, my customers think the vitamins have lost their potency when there's too much dust on the bottles.
Well, there's a very sound medical reason for your customers to think that, but please don't be long. I'm due in surgery, and it's difficult to operate when I have a rash that itches.
Hey, imagine seeing you here, Dr. Bradshaw. Remember me? Former child piccolo prodigy Fritz Lipvogel? You saved my musical career after that gravel truck backed over my fingers.
Oh, yes, of course. You were the $12,000 cartilage transplant.
All right, Doctor, I can fill your prescription now.
Rebuilding your fingers was one of my most brilliant surgical accomplishments. Fortunately, I don't do much of that delicate work anymore. You see, I have to keep stopping to scratch my rash.
Well, I just want you to know that I'm going to pay the whole $12,000 I owe you eventually, but it's been hard to save that much. I wasn't quite as good a piccolo prodigy as I thought. So now I just play on street corners for nickels and dimes.
Of course, I'm still asked to lecture before the College of Surgeons, but Constant scratching in the operating room has made work on the human brain a virtual impossibility.
Being a doctor, you could write out a new prescription if you've lost the one you brought. I wouldn't ask to see your license or anything like that.
It's quite a come down for a man of my stature to be yanking out tonsils again. And the hospital has warned me that I may soon be demoted to experimenting on guinea pigs.
I still play some of the difficult classical pieces at home for my mother, but I hit too many sour notes to do it in public. Can't imagine why I ever thought I was a prodigy.
Of course, I have nothing against guinea pigs, but operating on them exclusively puts a famous surgeon into a much lower income bracket.
I don't suppose the people who listen to me on street corners would want to hear classical music even if I could play it without hitting so many clinkers.
Sometimes I think I should just slash my wrists and end it all, but I can't seem to stop scratching long enough to hold the razor steady.
Doctor, if you won't give me your prescription, I'm afraid I'll have to wait on this other gentleman here first.
I'd hate to sink to the point where I have to start making house calls to eke out an existence.
Oh, I didn't come in here to be waited on. I just stepped inside for a minute to warm my hands so I can play a few more old favorites for the people down at the corner.
I've always enjoyed the old favorites myself. They lift my spirits and even help my rash by reminding me of better days when a promising medical career lay ahead of me.
Well, if there's anything I can do musically to help your skin condition, just say the word, Doc.
A very kind of offer, and I feel certain that you can be of assistance. Would you, please play something?
And so handsome young druggist Ross Flecknoy again offers the facilities of his prescription department to aid the sick and downtrodden. But can even a dedicated pharmacist stand idly by while his customers cure each other? Be sure to join us next time when we'll hear the mother of piccolo prodigy Fritz Lipfogel say,
"Why, you can't even play the old favorites worth the lick anymore, son."
That's in the next thrilling episode of General Pharmacy. Well, I know you listeners will be delighted to hear that our Bob and Ray weather station is now back in service. It's right on the top floor of this very building.
That's amazing.
Well, I don't see why you think it's amazing, Ray. Men have been up there working on the equipment for almost a week now.
Oh, I don't mean it's amazing that the weather station is back in service. I just found it amazing when you said our listeners will be delighted to hear about it.
Oh, well, maybe delighted is too strong a word, but we do have a lot of sophisticated new equipment up there, so we're now able to give accurate forecasts for the entire nation. And best of all, we have our two expert meteorologists back on the job, Walton Krager and Charles L. Bernbach.
Indeed we do. So for you listeners whose business or vacation plans may depend upon the weather around the country, we switch now to Walton Krager and Charles L. Bernbach at the Bob and Ray weather station on the top floor.
Thank you, Bob and Ray on a lower floor. This is Charles L. Bernbach speaking from Weather Central. I'm standing before a large computerized instrument.
Hey, Charlie, what do you want on your toast? Jelly or marmalade?
Neither one, just a little butter.
You got it. Here you go. I think we'd better get the toaster checked out. It's making that funny noise again.
Well, right now we're on the air, Walt, and I was just about to tell our listeners, and we have this new computerized instrument to bring in pictures from our Bob and Ray weather satellite. For instance, right now we're focused on the Great Lakes region, where a storm front is moving in.
Well, I don't see anything there but some little pieces of fluffy white stuff.
Well, the man who installed this equipment told me that patches of fluffy white stuff are really pictures of storm clouds.
Well, that's not a very clear picture. I took some snapshots of a storm cloud when I was in meteorology school. They all came out a lot better than this.
Well, I don't think you can make a comparison, Walt. You were probably on the ground when you made those snapshots.
Well, of course I was. I said I was in a meteorology school. The school was located on the ground. What's your point?
Well, this picture was taken from our weather satellite, and it's in outer space.
Oh, really? Well, it's still not a very clear picture. You didn't send the film to one of those cheap quickie places to be developed, did you?
I didn't have any film from the satellite developed, Walt. Maybe one of the girls in the office handled that. In any event, we can see stormy conditions now over the Great Lakes.
What makes you think those things are the Great Lakes?
Well, the Atlantic coast is this thing over here, and the Pacific coast is over there. These little three things are about in the middle near the top. That must be the Great Lakes.
Well, I thought there were 4 Great Lakes.
No, I'm pretty sure there are only 3. The Great Salt Lake is sometimes called Great, but it's not really one of the Great Lakes.
Maybe you're right. So if this really is a storm, and those really are the Great Lakes, well, then what?
It will have moved either eastward or southward by tomorrow morning, which will put it over Wisconsin or North Carolina.
Why, I thought this was Illinois over here and Alabama down there.
No, besides what you're pointing at on our satellite picture isn't part of the United States at all. That's Cuba.
Well, the picture's so fuzzy, I don't know how you can tell. I really think we ought to send somebody up there to focus that camera better.
Well, I guess we could try, but for now, I was talking to my brother in Detroit just before we went on the air, and he said it's starting to get real cloudy out there.
Well, based on that, I'd be willing to go out on a limb and predict possible showers for the Detroit area by late evening.
Yes, and those could easily spread into Wisconsin and North Carolina by morning.
I thought we decided on Illinois and Alabama.
Well, either way, you folks in that part of the country are in for some heavy weather, so you'd better cover your citrus plants and bring in the porch furniture tonight.
I agree. And now, concluding today's report from our state-of-the-art weather satellite, this is Walton Krager speaking for Charles L. Burnback and myself, sending it back downstairs to Bob and Ray. Let's see. According to the call board, Wally Ballou is standing by with a report from the transatlantic bridge. I really didn't know there was such a thing.
It's still under construction, I think. Actually, I don't know. It hasn't got much publicity.
Well, I'm sure we'll learn all of the details as we switch out there now to correspondent Wally Ballou.
Lee Ballou speaking from the main construction shack of the transatlantic bridge some 800 miles due east of New York. Beside me is one of the men responsible for this eighth wonder of the world, Mr. Oddmont Fulcrum. I believe I'm correct, Mr. Fulcrum, in saying that the bridge construction is now extended to a point about 800 miles out of New York.
We're right around 800 miles from New York, yes. We don't keep an accurate check on our mileage, but we're less than halfway across.
As I understand it, the bridge ultimately will end in England?
Well, we're pointing it toward England, but in the event that we miss the mark, we'll just go on to the French coast.
You know, it's strange, but I could swear that I hear an automobile motor way off in the distance. But, of course, that's impossible.
No, it's not impossible at all. We've opened the toll house at the New York end.
Gee whiz, that car went right off the end of the bridge and into the ocean. Shouldn't you put up a sign of some kind to warn people the bridge isn't completed beyond this point?
Well, it wouldn't do much good, really. The bridge is too narrow to turn a car around on, and you certainly couldn't back up 800 miles to New York.
No.
When you hit this point, you always have to drive off the end.
Yeah, I suppose so. The amazing thing to me about this monumental project is the fact that only 3 men are working on it. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Jimmy Sanderson's working on it, and Bobby Bogle is working on it. And the funny part is that none of us had any previous experience in bridge building.
Well, then, how did you ever get the idea for building a bridge clear across the Atlantic Ocean?
Well, it all came about kind of by accident. Wally, Jimmy and Bobby and I were at Coney Island one summer afternoon back in 1951. We were trying to build a castle in the sand, but the thing kept falling down.
Uh-huh.
And when we got finished, we discovered that what we really had was a bridge approach.
And so you decided to just go ahead and build a bridge out of sand all the way to Europe. Is that it?
That's right. We figure that with airline and steamship fares as high as they are, a lot of people would be glad to pay a 50-cent toll to drive across. We opened the New York toll house right away so we'd have some operating capital.
Well, I don't notice any machinery or anything around here. You usually see pile drivers and things like that where a bridge is being built.
Well, most bridges are not built out of sand. All we use are buckets and shovels. Jimmy and Bobby dig up the sand at Coney Island, and they bring it out to me, and then I pack it down here at the end of the bridge.
Wow. And you were telling me before we went on the air that you hope to complete the project by about 1987, 88?
That's right. Of course, you can drive out this far anytime you'd like.
No, thanks. I think I'll wait until it's finished.
Well, suit yourself about that.
Uh-huh. Well, I want to thank you for chatting with us, Mr. Fulcrum. And now this is Wally Ballou, winner of 51 international awards, sending it back to New York.
Join us now as we return once again to Gary's Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our drama resumes, wealthy Agatha Murchfield is arranging flowers in the greenhouse when her spineless son Rodney enters. Rodney takes time to stop and smell the roses. Then he speaks.
Mother, I'd like to discuss all the anger and hostility you felt against me throughout my entire life.
Well, I'd love to chew the fat with you, Rodney, but you've caught me at a bad time. As you can see, I'm busy arranging flowers just now.
Well, that's the way it's been since I was a child, Mother. You're always too busy to talk to me, and, well, now I hear you've gone behind my back to fire me as president of Murchfield Lead Company.
Well, you should have seen that coming, Rodney. The price of wholesale lead has dropped something fierce on the world market. And as a result, the family firm's in deep trouble. And heads had to roll.
But I had nothing to do with the decline in lead prices, Mother. I've just remained our steady hand at the tiller in these difficult times.
Oh, you're too much of a wimp to be a steady hand at anything. That's why I decided to have you replaced at the company by your capable brother, Caldwell.
Caldwell? He's nothing but a ne'er-do-well lounge lizard, Mother, the black sheep of the family.
That's what I used to think too, Rodney, but last night he showed me the Master of Business Administration degree from Harvard that he says he just earned by correspondence. And it made me awfully proud. I can picture him now, starting to use that knowledge to steer Murchfield Lead through troubled waters.
Hi, Mr. Murchfield. I'm Sparky from the mailroom. They sent me over to help you get settled here in the presidential office.
Okay, put my golf clubs next to the door so they'll be easy to pick up on the way out. And do whatever you want with this other junk. It just looks like dull company documents of some kind.
I'll have them all shredded for you, sir. What about your Master of Business Administration degree? Do you want me to have it framed and hung on the wall?
No, somebody might spot it as a forgery. I just had it printed up to fool my mother. She's too dippy to know I even started college.
No kidding. See, that really marks you as an inspiration to an underachiever like me, Mr. M. I'm a 9th grade dropout myself.
Well, I'd like to make you my executive vice president on the strength of those credentials, son. But I've already promised that job to my brother's ravishingly beautiful secretary, Pamela.
I can easily understand that decision, sir. It's okay, because I'm basically an employee of the mob. They just planted me here to keep an eye on you because of your big gambling debts. I'm sure my underworld bosses will be pleased to learn that you've moved up into a higher-paying position.
So, what do you figure he's making now, Lefty? $1 million a year, maybe?
Easy. Maybe more with fringe benefits. And I'd say the $10,000 a week we're collecting from him is way too low now.
Yeah, he's been getting the 50% interest rate we give our preferred borrowers, but I don't think we need to be nice to him any longer.
Right. He's in a good spot now to embezzle enough company funds to pay anything we ask. So name a figure.
Have that guy with the glasses and bookkeeping figure it out, Lefty. Just tell him I want to put a big enough squeeze on Murchfield to control his company by the end of next month.
That may be hard to do with high interest alone, boss. We might also have to kidnap him and hold him for millions in ransom.
Just do whatever it takes, Lefty.
Gotcha, boss. I'll get the boys together and work out the details.
Will Caldwell's gambling debts spell curtains for the Murchfield Lead Company? Will Rodney be able to find another job that draws on his vast experience as a social parasite? What about Sparky, the mysterious kid who pretends to be a mobster pretending to be a mailroom boy? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear the dean of the Harvard Business School say,
Caldwell Murchfield? I think he applied for admission here once, but he was wearing a wide necktie and brown shoes.
That's in the next thrilling episode when we shall return again to Gary's Summit. Now we have the noted psychologist, Dr. Merton Chesney, here in the studio with us again, and he's consented to answer questions phoned in by you emotionally disturbed listeners. And, Doctor, it's good to see you again.
Well, I'm afraid your perception of good as opposed to evil is only a subjective judgment in this case. Why would you feel that seeing me is intrinsically good?
Well, I hadn't actually analyzed my feelings. I just wanted to make you feel welcome. So I said it's good to see you. Now, our first call is coming in.
Just a moment. I think we're achieving a breakthrough in your case. Do you often attempt to curry favor with others by telling them it's good to see them?
I'm not trying to curry favor. I hardly even know you. Now, if you'd please pick up the phone.
See there? When you let your real emotions show through, you feel quite hostile to me.
I'm not hostile. Now pick up the bloody phone.
Oh, very well, very well. If it's good to see me, I don't know why you carry on this way. Hello, you're on the air with Dr. Chesney.
Hello? I need your help bad, Doc. I've just taken a job in a large city for the first time, and I panic every time I have to go up to my office on the 28th floor.
Yes, that's acrophobia.
No, it's Philadelphia. But I think I'd feel the same in a tall building anywhere.
Yes, I'm sure you would. Condition causes you to hyperventilate.
Not me. In fact, you can't even open the windows in these new buildings. The air conditioning just comes on automatically.
I see. Well, can you describe the symptoms that you're feeling right now?
Oh, I feel pretty good right at the moment.
Excellent, excellent. Then, even though you haven't understood anything I said, it appears that talking out your problem has cured you.
Yeah, either that or I feel good now because I'm calling from a payphone on the ground floor.
Well, we never know exactly why a psychological cure takes place, but it's the result that counts. Now, let's move along to another caller in need. Hello, you're on the air with Dr. Chesney.
Hello, Doctor. I'm in a frazzle because I have the same terrible dream every night. It's about my husband eating crackers in bed.
I see. What happens in this recurring dream?
Not much. I dream that he starts coughing on the cracker crumbs, so he has to get up to get a drink of water. Sometimes he even leaves the room to go check the thermostat on the heater.
Madam, this doesn't sound eventful enough to be a bad dream. I think you're probably awake when you hear your husband eating crackers in bed every night.
Well, I don't know. I've strictly forbidden him to do that, so I assumed I must be dreaming.
No, I think he's defying your orders, so you try to tell yourself it's just a dream.
By George, I'll bet you're right. But if it's all real, then I wonder what's become of those blue elephants I always see sitting on the foot of his bed.
Well, I'm sure there's a logical explanation. You'll be able to figure it out for yourself now that I've cleared your mind of your main problems. So we'll have to move along to the final caller. Hello, you're on the air with Dr. Chesney.
Hello? I just need one quick answer, Doc. Is it nutty to have a terrible fear of stepping on a crack in the sidewalk?
Yes, it's extremely nutty.
Oh, well, okay.
Probably goes back to that silly rhyme we all heard in childhood, step on a crack, break your mother's back, you know.
I never heard that before.
Well, it's not important.
I think it's vitally important. Gee, now that you've told me that, I'll probably be afraid to walk on the sidewalk at all. I'll never walk again.
Well, staying in the house certainly would solve your problem. You'll feel less anxiety, and your mother will be out of the constant danger you've been putting her in. So I'm pleased I could help the both of you. And now this is Dr. Merton Chesney signing off by wishing you all good luck and good emotional stability. And that old theme song means another swiftly paced, laugh-packed half hour's gone into the history books, and we got to wrap it up for today.
Our thanks to Larry Josephson, who developed and produced the Bob and Ray Show for the Radio Foundation.
And to his associate producer, Lars Hoel, who in his spare time likes to collect old shoe polish cans and butterflies.
Walt Taubman, whose interest in furniture and the preservation of water was at the organ. And Al Schaefer, who provided sound effects, will do the same thing next week.
Technical director, David Glasser.
Assisting with engineering, Marty Newman, Miles Smith, and Jay Newland.
Today's program was recorded at Howard Schwartz Studios, New York City.
That's a real funny thing to say. And production assistants, Bill O'Neill and Charles Whitson.
Funding, in part, is from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund.
And now this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
And Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
Additional funding from public radio stations. For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. Again, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000 GPO, New York 10116. We regret that we cannot send a picture without a stamped, self-addressed envelope. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.